On the build show today, I'm going to show you a Swiss prefab house that is going to blow you away. It's all inside this giant warehouse. Let's get going. Check this out. First of all, the warehouse is of course gorgeous, but what you've got there, that big black box, that's an 1,100 square foot modular home that's being built in one piece here at the factory, but it's going to come apart into 5 sections and get trucked to a job site in southern Switzerland. This is really cool. So we did a video here at this manufacturer, Kunz, no, I'm sorry, that's, I apologize. I'm totally butchering the name. Bucher Kearns, Holzbau. Holzbau means wood build. I like the bow, it's kind of like the build. But they prefab everything. So here they're building another house's panels right here. And it's actually fairly similar construction to what you'd see in the US. They've got studs. Now they're not typical studs that what we do. Watch your step here. But check this out. Here's a sole plate for a house all laid out. They've got the numbers in there so these guys know which go in there. Their wood is totally different though. This looks like a laminated, I don't know, 4x8 maybe. So you've got at least 8 inches of cavity insulation in here. And then all the studs are pre-cut as well. They're sheathing it on the outside with OSB, and then they're air sealing the heck out of their houses. This is something they do really well in Switzerland. They're using Siga tape. This is the green tape you see there is Siga Riesen. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. And that's gonna air seal all these joints so they've got a very airtight shell. So this will be another wall section, but let's go check out this nearly finished house over here. So what's happening here is they're finishing the house here at the shop. Watch your step there. And then this entire house will get shipped out in 5 sections, like I said, to the job site. So at a job site right now, they're putting in a foundation, a full concrete foundation. This will have a basement underneath it, and they'll put all 5 sections together. They'll bolt it together, they'll do the final taping with the Siga tape on all the seams, and boom, this house will basically be complete. Let's take a look underneath first, because I think this is really cool, and then we'll hop into the house and show you. But look at this. It's being built on stilts here in the factory, but this will get, like I said, come apart into several sections. And they've even sheathed the floor section, so I'm not quite sure what the floor mechanism is. Already sheathed, already insulated, all the plumbing, all the piping, everything's in there. And they'll make the connections at the job site. I even think the ceiling's beautiful under here. So this would be your view in the basement of this future house looking up. The windows are being set already as well. And let's walk up this ladder here and we'll give you a quick tour. As I mentioned earlier, these guys make their own windows in that factory. Go check out that other video if you haven't seen that. But check out this interior, isn't this beautiful? They're in the process now where they're about to lay down all of the radiant heating pipes. And this is kind of like a cement board. You can see that they lay down in panels. So these field panels here accept the straight runs of tubing. And now you can start to see where the modular sections are going to come together. That's this big gap right here in the floor. And so they'll have a bend on the tubing so that they'll only have to make probably 1 connection on the tubing across these panels. So this panel here, from this doorway all the way back, this is going to be trucked in 1 section right here. And then where this break is, a 2nd section. Now the walls have already been insulated on the inside. The wiring's in here already. This doesn't look like typical US wiring. This is 230 volt wiring. And because that's 230 volt, we've got half the amperage compared to American electricity, which is 120. So you can use a much smaller copper wire size. And then this is kind of cool. They've got some kind of a mineral wool spacer to make sure you don't heat up the wall section over there, and it keeps everything concise. But let's go check out the bedrooms real quick. All wood walls. This is kind of neat. You can see the cross section. Their wood walls is basically a plywood. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? It's a 3-ply plywood. Looks like it ends up being about a 5/8 or maybe 3/4. And the interior studs are thinner because they don't want to take up a lot of space on this 1,100 square foot house. And then all the walls and ceilings are that plywood. I bet this house is going to feel really good when it's done. And the builder tells me this is going to be a painted house, meaning they'll put a coat of white paint on top of this. But this is finished. I also would assume that because this is going to be trucked down the highway at 80 kilometers an hour, that interior wood and the exterior sheathing is going to combine to really make this a very strong pod so it's not moving, because remember, all the finishes are going to be in. Now this is the future kitchen section, and this is kind of cool. You can see in the ceiling section here the fresh air system. So there's no air conditioner in the house. It's just radiant heating, but because they build houses in Switzerland so airtight, which makes a huge difference in the energy efficiency, they need to puff in some air from the outside, and this is basically the lungs of the house. I'll put a link to the description on another house that I toured in America, a passive house that had this, so you can kind of see what the main unit looks like. But this is going to take, in this small tubing, a little bit of CFM of fresh air into every single room of the house, so these occupants can live fully sealed up but still have fresh air and be very, very energy efficient at the same time. And this is kind of neat too. You can see the radiant heating system manifolds right here. So the radiant heating is going to come out of all these different tubes here, and then the PEX tubing will run on the floors all the way through here. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Okay, let's go check out the bathroom. So the bathroom is still in process. I like seeing this. They've got a nice tub protector here, but you can see the tub's already in place on the back side here, and they've already plumbed it too. It's fun to see in Europe. They use floating toilets everywhere, Gabaret. Actually have some of those in my office. So the toilet will actually bolt in right here. These are all thread bolts. The China vessel will actually bolt in here, and that way the tubing can run on the floor, and there's also no plumbing that runs through the floor here. The plumbing is going to run through the wall section. And the only part of the house that has any type of sheetrock, let's call it, that's not wood, let's say, is this. And we saw this on another Swiss job site. It's not actually sheetrock. It's kind of like a mix between a cement board and a sheetrock. Apparently it's all cellulose based, but it's very hard, very rigid. You can't cut it with a normal knife. You can see it's not like gypsum board. It's very solid. So they're going to use this as a tile backer, and so this whole wall will get tiled here. Man, such an interesting house. Okay, the last thing I want to show you, which I think is really interesting, is how they do the roof. So let's walk upstairs. I'm going to show you the roof section. Okay, one more thing before we go upstairs. This is cool. You can see this wall section. So this is that pod that I showed you here, and this is where they come together. So you've got a steel beam that runs all the way across on these two, and when that beam comes up, you've got these nails that are going to hold that all together. And that outside, this is basically a structural outside wall here, and I'm sure there's joists hanging onto this beam as well. And then here's how the beam, these sections rather, get bolted together. You've got a bolt here that's going to get clamped, and then they'll undo all this when they're ready to truck this to the job site. But there's a couple other details that I think are cool on this. You can see the conduit right here, and I also wanted to show you the exterior insulation. This is a wood fiber insulation that I'm seeing used all over Europe, but I've never seen this in the States before. This is kind of interesting. And I couldn't figure out at first what this wood is doing, interrupting, because this is it's kind of a male-female joint right here, but they've done it in a way that has added wood in there. What they're doing is they're making room for a vertical rain screen, and this house wrap is a UV stable house wrap. So you'll have some joint in the cladding. It'll be a vertical rain screen. You'll have just a little bit of joint, and this is gonna be able to take the UV rays from that. But you can see that's basically running continuous on the whole outside of the building. So not only do you have a 2x8 cavity, let's say, of insulation, you also have several inches of that wood fiber insulation on the outside. All right, now let's go up and check out the roof. It's pretty cool up there. Let your head. This is cool too. Check this out. They've already got the window frames in place. They haven't glazed the windows yet. This is kind of neat. They've got this aluminum trim piece that goes all the way around that's going to act as a flashing. This is pitched to the outside, so when that wood comes in, you've got a nice big flashing, some extra protection for the windows. And this is a flat roofed house, but they've got a little bit of an overhang on the flat. It looks like maybe 3 or 4 inches. And then on the roof section, climb up here and let me show you what's going on up here. Okay, now this is really cool. Now you can really see what the sections of the house look like. So this pod right here, if you look this direction, this is that first pod I was showing you. So this is one trucked section of the house. this big fat coping on the outside will get unscrewed because right now it's joining the sections. So they'll pop this off, and then eventually this will get screwed back down. And then here's the two beams where it joins the sections. Now there's a bolt right now through those beams holding everything together. They're gonna unbolt that, and then this section will come off and get trucked out the front door of this warehouse. And then what you're seeing there is the wood caps that will get capped over here, and they've pre-applied what looks like TPO, but actually it's PVC roofing to the field here. It's sloped down to a drain. The main drain is right here, an internal drain with an all plumbing connection. And you'll see on the front of the house there's a soffit that will connect to a downspout here, but this is going to drain down through. These caps will get put on, and then after the caps get put on in the field, the roofer will complete the PVC system. PVC roofing is similar to TPO, it's a heat welded system. So they've applied the field already. They'll cap it, and then they'll just go ahead and cap this and these outside caps, and the house will be completed. And now you can see from this angle here, looking back, all the sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's 5 total sections for this house. I think, I forget the conversion, but in meters, but we figured out it's about 1,100 square feet of house. What a cool project to see. Guys, I'll put a link to them. It's Modular Kearns is the name of the company, and their website will be linked in the description below. I don't think they're shipping necessarily out of Switzerland, but I'll tell you what a cool house, and how interesting to see how they do it. I love how the Swiss are so, they build for the future. They really build thinking about things long term. They use products that are going to be long lasting. They think about energy efficiency and durability. You're seeing all these Sega tapes everywhere. By the way, thanks to Sega for sponsoring my trip to Switzerland. They really have thought through all the details in this. And it's so interesting that this company is not only a window builder, but they build houses as well. Guys, thanks for following me on The Build Show. If you're not currently a subscriber, hit that subscribe button below. Got a lot of really interesting content from the Switzerland trip. And actually next week we're heading off to Germany, so we're gonna have a bunch of German content as well, seeing how they build things around the world. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, otherwise I'll see you next time on The Build Show.